So what have you been hearing? What have you been hearing after the drafting of Ausar Thompson to the Detroit Pistons with the 5th pick? We did the live show. You saw our reactions. If you haven't, please feel free to check them out. Chris posted those yesterday. And here's what I will say. Saw it coming, knew it was happening. He was number 2 on my big board that was left. But it was really hard for me not to put him at 1 just because you saw the smoothness, you saw the upside, you saw what he could do. And I think he's actually growing, and I think he's still tall. Like, I'm just looking at a picture right now out of the corner of my eye with him holding his jersey and how much bigger he looks than Sasser. He looks bigger than Monty, and part of it's the hair, but part of it's just like he's not a small kid. This is a wing. And I think so many people, like some of the comments that, you're starting to see running is, why did the Pistons draft another guard? He's a 3. He's going to play 3 for the Pistons. He can play the 2 if they need him to. That's great. He can play the 2, but he is a 3, I think, in the NBA who can play the 2 as well. So it's interchangeable. He has the size and athleticism to do both. But then there's this question of, why did they draft another guy who can't shoot? I have a comparison for you, but before I get into that comparison and what I think the ceiling is for Ausar Thompson, I first want to talk about why the Pistons really drafted him. And they drafted him not just for his offensive side of the ball. I was reading an article, and here's what it says. This is Troy Weaver speaking. He says, in drafting, unlike in trading or free agency, you get to show who you are. To Weaver, Detroit is defense. It's how they win the 3 titles. How they've won their 3 titles is how they'll get back into the playoffs. He said, to be Pistons, we have to defend. These 2 young men will absolutely bring that at a high level. When you're listening to Troy Weaver's press conference, if you haven't listened to it, feel free. Go ahead. Take a look. It was really good. It was standard Weaver. Like, he's talking like he's exhausted, doesn't want to be there, but he gives long answers. So it shows you that he does care and he wants to be professional about it. I love this guy. Anyways, he talked about the ceiling for Ausar and his defensive ability. And when he talked about shooting, he's like, yeah, he's going to be a good shooter. Like, he doesn't even worry about it. I think that's nuts. And I'm going to tell you later in this video why I don't think you need to worry about it as much, with a crazy comparison. And when I'm done with it, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, he's not that wrong. Troy Weaver actually went on to compare him against Andre Iguodala, not Andre Iguodala with the Warriors, but Andre Iguodala with his 76ers, when he was scoring 18, 19, 20 points a game. And he was just that elite athlete. Weaver went on to say, it's all I think about. It's all I want to think about, having that defensive mentality. I've never seen a team shoot their way to the top. It starts with defense. I've been saying it since I arrived, and I'll say it till my last days here. It starts and ends with defense. This is why you have Ausar Thompson. This is why you brought in Sasser. This is why you have these guys and this athletic identity that you started to bring in last year, guys like Jaylen Brown, because you see what their defensive, ceiling is. All right. For Monty Williams, who couldn't attend most of Detroit's obviously pre-draft workouts, he was doing other things. He was hired late. He relied on Troy, but also made sure to be there for Ausar's and Marcus's workouts because he knew how highly the organization regarded both players. He said, what I liked about that particular workout is that the young man, Ausar, brought energy to the gym. He had the coaches hyped up. Same with Marcus. When a guy can get into that environment and raise the level of the gym, that says something about him. You have a bunch of people watching. If one guy can raise the level of the whole gym, he can have that same impact on a game. I feel like this group can get out and run. I feel like we can push the pace. I feel like we can really lock in on defense. Thompson said there's a lot of really long guys on defense here. All right. So even Sasser, who's only 6'2", has a long wingspan. So this is it. Now I'm going to give you a couple of comparisons for Ausar that I think we're looking at, because the more I watch this guy, the more I watch film, There had been quite a bit anyway. The more I read about him, the more I get to hear about his personality. There are two things. There are two things that really stick out to me. The number one comparison is the Andre Iguodala back with the Philadelphia 76ers. That is a good comparison of a guy who is just a straight lockdown defender, but also a guy who could get it done on the offensive end. He came out not a shooter, but learned to shoot a little bit better. However, I do have a slightly different comparison that I think is just as much apples to apples. And in a second, I'm going to tell you why, and the stats even back it up in college. And that man is Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. So just so you guys can see what I'm talking about, I'm going to present Ausar Thompson's stats to you. All right. You can look at him right here. He is, and I just want you to try and remember some of them. Ausar Thompson, I understand competition's different, but his per game averages were 27 minutes a game, 48% field goals, 30% from the three. And then you're just like, see, Jaylen Brown can shoot. What are you talking about? Hold on. 67% from the free throw line. He averaged 7 boards, 6 assists, a little over a block, almost 3 steals, and 16 points. Okay? That's not bad. That's not bad. Now, let's go ahead and let's take a look at what Jaylen Brown did in college at Cal in 1 year. Look how many minutes per game. I know that's kind of small. Let me see if I can get that a little bit bigger for you. All right. So exact same minutes per game, much lower field goal percentage. 2-point field goal percentage wasn't bad. He shot 3 threes a game at a lower 3-point percentage. He shot a lower free throw percentage. 5.5 boards, 2 assists, not even close on the assists, not even close on the steals, not even close on the blocks, and he averaged 2 points less. Remember when Jaylen Brown was drafted, I want to say he went like 3 or something like that. It'll probably tell me right here. 3rd overall in the 2016 NBA draft. The big thing on him, and everybody was talking about, because it was a weaker draft class, everybody was talking about how like this guy is going to have to grow into it. Also, Jaylen Brown, 6'7", 225. Ausar Thompson, 6'7", 220. So like the athletic ability is there. And that's the thing that gets me. There's freakish athletic ability. When I look at the jump shot form, it's actually at the top, at the release. You can't see my release here. It is very similar to Jaylen Brown's release. And I don't know what the shooting things are. Because like his form honestly looks good. And we actually had a guy email into the show talking about how there's an eye situation. I don't know it. I'm not a doctor, but he even talked about like how if he could just get a prism lens or something like that, that it could fix it. And he would struggle with depth perception. And that's the reason for it. I don't know if it's that, but what I do know is that toward the end of his year with the overtime elite squad, the Breakers or whatever he played for, his shooting numbers got much, much better. And so I think he started figuring it out. And I think his problem is a lot of it is with the base, like it is with any young player. It's what does that base look like? How is that going to help? Things of that nature. So I'm telling you right now, I think your best comparison to a current NBA player is Jaylen Brown. Coming out of school, they're the exact same. Jaylen Brown advanced in the offensive areas, so he became a superstar. If Ausar Thompson can advance in the same way, I'm not saying it's easy, he can do the exact same. Let me know what your thoughts are. Does this help you have more confidence in Ausar Thompson? Are you happy with who the Pistons drafted? All that good stuff. We'll see you on the next one.